Well, hello YouTube. Here we are with a long-awaited video. This is kind of a special bike of mine. This bike here kept me out of a lot of trouble and at the same time got me into a lot of adventures when I was quite young. A lot of kids my age were out having normal teenage fun, doing things that they'd probably regret later on in life. And rather than doing that, following those crowd, I kind of did my own thing on, well, this here bike. In front of us here we have a Rocky Mountain Blizzard. This here bike is about mid or so 90s vintage. The frame anyway. It was owned by the owner of the bike shop in town here, and I remember the day when I walked into the shop and seen the frame up on his display stand, and I kind of said to myself then that someday I will own, well, a bike just like this. Lo and behold, a few years later, after he had his fun with this here bike, it came up for sale. So of course then became the monumental task of rebuilding this here bike from the frame up. Again, this here is a mid or so 90s vintage. I was told that this was one of the last frames that was built by Chris DeKerf, I believe. It was his last name. It is a hand-built in Canada by Rocky Mountain Cycle. Very beautiful tubing. A very nice, comfortable bike to ride. I spent hours riding this here bike, you know, wearing out tires, wearing out components, and you know, it was most definitely a blessing in disguise. Well, starting at the front of the bike here, obviously it has grip shift. It's a 600 series grip shift. It's got SRAM 9.0 composite brake levers, kind of a nice alloy downhill style bar, an Echo J7 computer. It, you know, monitored you know, the speed, you know, kilometers put on, all that good stuff. And of course, coming down here, it's got a RockShox Quadra 10 fork, Shimano Dior LX hubs, laced to Velocity Deep V rims. Of course, color coded to, you know, the handlebar and the frame, kind of keeping all that going. It's got a Tioga headset in it. It is the Alchemy headset. When this bike was first built up, it had Tioga cranks in it. However, I rode this bike so much, had enough force enough, that I actually stress cracked the cranks. So we had to change them out to the Ritchie Logic style crank. Again, they are a little stiffer, a little bit stronger, and well, as you can see, they've lasted very well. Again, with the Dior LX front derailleur and a Dior XT rear derailleur. And pretty much the back hub is the LX laced with the Deep V Velocity rim. Like I said, this here bike was definitely a blessing when purchased. It most definitely helped to shape my future to what it is now. Kind of reinforce a hobby or interest that I do have or did have. Kind of help that grow. And all it took was, you know, a bicycle shop and one person to, well, kind of create something that lasted a lifetime in me. Well, of course, just giving it a bit of a once-over look, a lot of the parts on this here bike have weathered very well. It hasn't nearly sat as long as what, you know, other bicycles do sit or have sat. The tires aren't, you know, dry rotted or cracked. They are probably hard, you know, no longer soft. The tubes themselves are most definitely probably the tubes themselves are flat. The little rubber liner inside the rim looks like it is still intact. And same with the front, you know, pretty much the same story. The rubber liner is still intact. So first thing to do, I would recommend basically tearing it apart and making sure the rubber liner is in place. If it is cracked or missing, then you will end up with a hole in the tube and then have to tear it apart anyway. But I'm going to chance it on, well, this here bike, being it's my own personal bike, I'm going to throw some air in the tires. This here bike has the Presta style valve, which I've always found from day one is a little bit annoying, but I guess that's kind of the big thing back in the day, as well as is what these rims came with. I've always wanted to drill them out and put a long stem Schrader valve in there. However, by drilling them out, you might end up creating a weak point, and of course having the rim crack on out. So of course got the air compressor filled, going to air these tires up and see if I can hear hissing noises. If I can't, then well, we will proceed from there. Okay guys, so here we go. Of course, just threw some air in the front and back tire. Those Presta valves, I had forgotten what a pain they are to put air in. You need a special adapter to adapt it from Presta to Schrader. And of course, being these are the deep V rims, there are valve extensions on there that all have to work in sync to get the air, well, in the tube. Which at first appearance the tubes did take air. Now that the tires are inflated, I'm not seeing any dry cracks, so that is a double bonus. I just kind of gave it a little bit of a spin, and really it didn't really go out of tune by much. I think the rear derailleur is a little bit sticky just from sitting. As you can tell, the chain has a little bit of corrosion, you know, starting on it. So we'll get that cleaned up and lubed up. Same with the rest of the bike. One of the things I'm probably going to have to change, if I'm planning on riding it, is changing out the 52 tooth front ring for something a little bit more respectable. When I was younger, I had a lot of strength that I needed to well, get out, and this here bike was the speed bike. It really didn't go off-road much, and as you see, it has well, 2 rings on the front and 7 on the back, which basically makes it a 16 speed bike instead of you know, the other way. Now I might switch those out. We'll have to see how it goes. You can run down into the more respectable ring. However, I found that it would chew up your pants. So, you know, most of the time when I rode in the big ring, and back then never really had an issue. Of course, the boots around the shocks aren't dry cracked, so they're pretty good. Of course, the shock works, which is definitely a bonus. So other than giving her a really good wipe down cleanup, and then of course giving her a once over to make sure nothing's out of adjustment, she looks like she's pretty good. So I'll start with, of course, the brake clean in the back, getting rid of all the gunk around the derailleur and the rear cassette, seeing if that remedies the shifting problem. So of course got that rear derailleur all cleaned up, and well, kind of the rest of the bike gone through. Everything's looking pretty good. There is no really any rot, broken stuff, anything bent. Of course it has, you know, chips and scratches, but again, giving the age of the bike, that's to be expected. So of course, I don't remember the last time this here bike was ridden, probably somewhere around the early 2000s. So, you know, you can say first ride in 14 years. So let's get her off the stand. I'm going to take her for a rip, and well, let's hope for the best. Well guys, there we go. I just took her around the block or three, took her for another rip, and well, it handles really, really well. I forgot what it's like to ride a better quality bicycle when the components and the bicycle are working with you. It all tends to go really, really well. One of the things I'm going to probably switch out is the pedals. These are Weld-Go clipless pedals. Essentially the bottom of the shoe, like the sole, has little metal clips that snap in there. It's supposed to give you more power, better control over the bike when you're you know, ups and downs, over obstacles, loops and jumps, and it most definitely does give you better control. You just got to remember to unclip your feet when you come to the stop, or else you end up, well, taking a spill. But pretty much, guys, we got ourselves a mid-90s or so vintage Rocky Mountain Blizzard. First tune-up and first ride in about 14 years. And as always, thanks for watching Maxwell's World. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.